So, sir, what is your take on the current scenario of post-colonial studies in India, especially the hype that was there in the beginning years of post-colonial studies? Has it paid off? Has it been sustained?
Basically, I think that these are euphemisms rather than metaphors. So the more we talk about post-colonialism as a discourse, we are actually indulging in euphemisms. We are not really exploring its metaphorical possibilities, which we ought to be doing. So ultimately, we are not changing the social structure or the way the political economy is functioning. So the poor and the downtrodden continue to remain poor and downtrodden. We are not addressing those real questions. We are only exploring these divisions as euphemistic possibilities. While what we ought to be doing is to metaphorically explore those boundaries which will actually shatter class, caste and gender divisions, which are actually destroying or attacking the very framework of what passes off as democracy in this country.
So you mean to say that the real pains of the society are not being alleviated as such? I mean, they stay as they are. Is that so? Is that what you're trying?
No, it is our whole language. I mean, look, whether the language will talk about reality as reality, or whether it will talk about reality as an idea. Because the moment we start talking about reality as if it were an idea, we end up thinking about more and more ideas. And we end up idealizing. But that is a problem. We have to stop idealizing and we have to realize. In other words, we have to look at reality as reality, whatever that means. And I don't think we are doing that enough.
Since you did hint a bit at the question of the suffering still being there, and the fact that how the nature of language itself, how we address language or how we use it. My next question is, what is, in your opinion, what role does pain play in narratives? I mean, is it ever possible to narrativize pain? Because you have a lot of critics saying that it's not possible to really say what pain is about. So is there any way you can articulate pain as such? What is your take on this?
Look, man, as long as we see pain as human condition, then we are entering the whole existential realm. But what we have to understand is that pain is a social condition, you see, and it is not possible to separate the human condition from the social condition. That is where we have to explore what pain means in the context of living in a third world country. We are not seeing its social dimension enough. Either we end up theorizing too much about pain as if it were an abstraction, in the sense that we talk about birth and death or old age, which is fine. I mean, that thing has to be understood as the background to whatever our articulation on pain is all about. But at the same time, to ignore the social context, to ignore that context of alienation, why pain is an alienated condition. Because the worst pain...
I need you for a letter for disabled son.
Bring it, no?
You are not okay. I'll call you later.
Okay, man. Come and see me, man.
Fine.
We have to edit this part.
No, that's okay.
So the worst pain is loneliness or social condition called alienation. That pain in that alienated condition has to be understood. For example, if I'm an ill man, the need for company is greater for the ill person, for the sick person. But the thing is, the moment we start seeing it purely from the point of view of the illness, then we don't understand that what is worse is the isolation that people are subjected to thanks to the illness. Because the point is, in every society people become ill. That has nothing to do with which society you're born in or where you come from. But how do we address it? How do we address it as a social issue? How do we reach out to those who are isolated or to those who are deprived of companionship or friendship or whatever you call it? I think that's where we have to understand, focus, and we have to understand that that's where the narrative has to be imagined. Because instead we are talking, if we continue talking about illness or suffering as if they were neutral domains existing on their own, then we are not really reaching out to the body of the person. We are dealing with it at a more external level, which might be necessary as a theoretical enterprise, but will not help in the process of social change.
Speaking in terms of, like you just referred to the dangers of theorizing and also this persistent kind of isolation that is still there. So, I mean, in what way do you think would an academic activity like a research scholars workshop, for example, the one that we are organizing, help to bridge this or to sort of, help us get over this kind of a scenario or this kind of a stagnation?
For a couple of reasons. One is that research can be an isolated activity. So the need to exchange and share ideas is of extraordinary importance, especially in the humanities, because we are more and more isolated from one another, and it's important for the other person to know what you're studying or what you're doing. Very, very important, because that is the only way that the mind can grow. It is not like in science, for example, which might demand a lot of, which might demand that kind of an isolation. Humanities will demand that kind of sharing. Humanities or social sciences, for that matter. But more importantly, who can deny the power of an idea? Ideas change the world. So great research and serious research will undoubtedly impact how people think and feel about themselves, about their lives, their future, and their destiny. So they can forge their sense of selfhood through their work. So it will give them immense satisfaction that sometimes they may be deprived of in real life. Therefore, it's very important in that sense. It's like creating a work of art, but probably in a very different sense. That's what I think.
Just one line, probably, on our endeavor.
The only real conferences are those which are done by students. Seriously,
Thank you, sir.
and more should be done.
Thank
in
you
my
so
view.
much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.